Okay. Just give us a moment while we go live on Facebook. And I think we are live now on Facebook. Welcome, Facebook family, to Hot Topic Tuesday. Again, this is Hot Topic Tuesday, drug dangers and the teenage brain. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So the objectives for today are you all are going to learn how the brain develops, how trauma and substance use affects the youth brain development, and the importance of prevention. So here's a question I have for you, and you can feel free to unmute yourself and answer this, or just answer it in the chat. See if you know this. At what age does the brain stop developing? If anyone wants to mute themselves or put it in the chat. And Marlon, if anything's in the chat, you can just let me know because I can't see the chat box.
I have a couple 25s in the chat. Two people have 25. 3 say 25. 4 say 25. I think they're on to.
I think you're on to something. Yep, that is correct. The brain doesn't stop developing until 25. That is, it takes a long time for that brain to develop. There's a lot going on in your brain and a lot that can happen to your brain while it's developing. So a lot of the things that you do in your life can either positively or negatively impact your brain development. So just be aware of that. So adolescence and brain development. As you may or may not know, the brain develops from the back to the front of the brain. Middle school youth, they rely mainly on the amygdala, which is in the middle portion of the brain that regulates emotions and is part of the temporal lobe. So middle school youth, if you thinking back to when you were young and thinking about how you operated, a lot of it was emotion-based. A lot of what you did and what you thought had to do with emotions. Oh, she looked at me funny, I hate her. Or, such and such did this and oh, I'm so sad. There's a lot of crying and a lot of emotions, heightened emotions in the teen years. So just know it's because that's the part of the brain that's operating at that point. And then at 15 years old, when teens turn 15, that's when the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain is starting to develop. And that part of the brain doesn't finish developing into the mid-20s. And the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that helps with reasoning, understanding, consequences, and impulse control, and more. So that's not even fully developed until 25. So think about that and think about decision-making and how that might affect a young teen's ability to make sound decisions, and what they might do, because as I said, that the prefrontal cortex helps them with their impulse control. So if it's not fully developed, their impulses might be more impulsive and maybe prone to taking more risks when they're a teen. So trauma and the brain. So the brain is continually creating connections, meaning these are like think of them as little roadways, neural pathways. And the pathways that are created, they're created by behavior and habits that you do. So if there's repetitive trauma happening in the brain, the behaviors to cope with the stress and to remain alert, the behaviors will alter the brain and become dominant behaviors. So think about substance abuse and what effect that could have on the brain. Those negative, the negativity that's put into the brain from substance abuse can really alter the brain, and then the brain remembers that. Then it's harder later on in life to unlearn that behavior, and those pathways need to be fixed. So this video is going to give you a little bit more insight, better than what I can say, hopefully you can hear this. Oops, so sorry. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Really low, Tracy. You might have to reshare your screen and include this.
Okay, let me take my headphones out. Let me start it again.
Actually at higher numbers.
Is that better?
Oh, that was fantastic. Yeah, that was great.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back a minute. Go back to this one, go back here. Let me start it again.
My name's Frances Jensen, and I work at the University of Pennsylvania as the chair of neurology at the Perelman School of Medicine. The teenage brain is different from the adult brain in several ways, but two major patterns come out. First of all, because children and teenagers are actually wired to learn faster than adults, their synapses, where the brain cells talk to one another, are actually at higher numbers in childhood and adolescence. So teenagers actually have more synapses than adults. They also have more of the ability to learn, to strengthen those synapses than adults. We call that synaptic plasticity, how brain cells respond to they can be molded by the environment. That actually increased excitability of their brains is a very good thing. The second way the teenage brain is very different is that the way our brain areas are hooked up to one another, the major brain regions, is a process that takes 2.5 decades of our lives to actually occur. The brain is the last organ in the body to mature, and therefore it takes until your mid to late 20s to finish. And that property that takes a very long time, one of the major properties is the way we connect brain regions up to one another. So it's called myelination, and it starts in the back of your brain and moves forward. So the last place to connect is the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is important for judgment, impulse control, decision-making, and empathy. So when we think of teenagers, one of the problems they have is that they're not really accessing their frontal lobe as fast as they could. Teen brains are very impressionable to good things, but also to bad things. And one of the important things that I think teenagers need to know about themselves is this hidden strength is a bit of a double-edged sword in that addiction is a form of synaptic plasticity too. Instead of learning a good thing, your brain is actually learning a bad thing, which is substance abuse, and one gets the same strengthening of the wrong synapses robustly more than in the adults. So actually teenagers can get addicted harder, stronger, longer, faster than the adult. You couple that with the fact they're risk takers, they're actually potentially putting themselves in harm's way more. But it's not just the process of getting addicted. Actually, some of these substances prevent the normal process, the good things happening in your brain, and can change the way your brain develops. People who are addicted early have a much harder time undoing that addiction later in life. There are other things, though, like stress that can affect your brain in the adolescent years and can have long-term effects on later adult development, such as increasing the risk of depression. I find when we explain some of the new research on the teenage brain to parents and teachers, there's a sense of, so that's why they did it. Oh, now I get it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, great. So what I liked what that she said about it, that teens get addicted harder, stronger, longer, faster than adults. Listen to that again. Teens get addicted harder, stronger, longer, faster than adults. And that is why we need to make sure that if we're working with teenagers, or we have teenagers in our life, that we educate them and we let them know the dangers that substances, drugs, alcohol, all of those things can have on their brains. They need to know what they're doing to the brain may not be reversible. Whatever they're doing to their brains can last a lifetime, or it could take a really long time to reverse the effects. So just be mindful of that. So research shows that more than 50% of substance use initiation cases occur between the ages of 15 to 19. That's prime time for your brain development, when that prefrontal cortex is still developing, it's still doing its thing. And again, as we had said earlier, that substance use affects brain function and the neural pathways. And substance use with or without trauma hinders brain development. An early onset of substance use could mean a risk of developing substance use disorders later in life. And what is a substance use disorder? So that is actually a mental disorder that affects a person's brain and behavior. That's when the person is not able to control their use of substances. They're wanting more and more. They're feeling like they need it to function day to day. And the symptoms of substance use disorder can range from moderate to severe, where with addiction being the most severe of a substance use disorder. And with addiction comes a lot of issues, long range problems, problems with forming relationships with people, a lot of different things, and to the point where they may need to enroll in some sort of recovery therapy, counseling to overcome the addiction or the substance use disorder. And there are other types of substance use disorders. There's marijuana use disorders, opioid use disorders, and many more. So these are the types of substances that teens may be using. They may be engaging in vaping. These are different kinds of vaping devices. They might be engaging in alcohol use or abuse. Xanax is a popular one that teens are experimenting with. Also marijuana, be it smoking blunts or even vaping marijuana, or getting involved, experimenting with Delta-8 products that are hemp-based, but they do still contain THC. So those are types of substances that teens might be using. So here, I want to open this up for a discussion. Please open up the chat, open up your microphones and tell me, what are some risky behaviors that teens might engage in as a result of substance use? And I know the therapeutic community, you guys are out there. So I want to hear from some of you, some of the things that teens, young people might be behaving in, or other people that are on this call, if you wouldn't mind sharing. I see Jen has her hand raised. Yes.
Yeah, so I see Lauren put in the chat unprotected sex, and I was going to say that as something that teens may participate in. And I'd say just sex in general, because being under the influence, maybe they weren't intending to have sex, but ended up having sex one way or the other. So I think that would definitely be a risky behavior.
Right, their inhibitions are down and they don't realize what they're doing, and they might be engaging in that. And then as a result of the unprotected sex, there may be unplanned pregnancies happening as well. So it could be a myriad of consequences because of that. What are some other risky behaviors that teens might be engaging in? Heather.
Hi, Tracy. Driving under the influence.
Yes. And that is so risky. They can harm themselves. They can harm other people in the community. Yeah, that's a big one. Marlon, can you help me? I see 2 hands raised, but I don't know who they are.
So Erica is next, and then Jen also mentioned street racing. And
Erica, go ahead.
I would say like preventable like injuries. Say for example, like they engage in risky games with each other that can cause them harm or even sometimes death. And then also like violence, like fighting, destructive behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah, and with Jen had mentioned, thank you, Erica. Jen had mentioned street racing. That because their inhibitions are down and they're not making their sound decisions, they're thinking that, oh, this is fun. I'm going really fast. Look how fun it is. But then not realizing that they could crash, they could injure other people. Yeah. Anyone else have anything else to share? Heather, again, yeah.
Oops,
was
did
it-
I? Sorry, I didn't have, no, I did have one, but I'll tell you what, I was looking in the chat, pseudo maturity. Wow. And I looked it up. I'm like, wow, I haven't heard that term, but I looked it up. Like many of you might know what it means, but I just looked up. It's like when you're acting, you're a child, but you're acting much older than you really are. So thank you, Brian, for putting that in the chat.
Oh, that's
problem.
interesting. Did you want to add more, Brian?
Oh, no, I was just saying no problem. But yeah, in general, I mean, it was a study that I read that talked about pseudo maturity and role incompatibility, which are complete opposites. But the pseudo maturity aspect is just thinking that you're grown. And, you know, what I saw as a teen is some of my friends got married at like 18 because they were smoking so much in high school and they thought I'm a grown person. And then the other aspect of it is just role incompatibility, meaning that you put off adulthood, you keep on putting it off. You're thinking that you're putting it off because you're saying, oh, well, I'm in a certain type of lifestyle and I'm not going to participate in that lifestyle until I stop smoking. But it's really the lack of development in the brain that's causing you to not transition into adulthood.
Right, because it's hindered their development of their brain because they're smoking so much or they're using so much drugs that it's really hindering that development as we talked about. Thank you, Brian. Anyone else want to add anything else about risky behaviors that teens might engage in?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, hi, I'm Antonio from the TC community.
Hi, Antonio. Hi.
To answer that question, I would have to say a fear of fitting in, a fear of not being in the crowd is a big risky behavior that most teens have to deal with from the age of 12 to 18.
Yeah. So are you saying that if they have a fear of missing out, that they engage in things that they normally wouldn't because they just want to fit in?
I'm saying that from the age of 12 to 15, once a teenager has the capacity to reproduce life and hang around their peers, they no longer listen to their parents. Their peers are now their parents. And those are the people that they get their approval from. Those are the people that they look up to. Those are the people that if they shut them down, they feel nobody likes to not be in the in crowd or be on a first name basis with a selective group of people. Once you don't have that, you lose that power. You feel like you're the outcast. No kids or no teenager wants to be the outcast in a circle of a community of the friends or the people that you hang around on a daily basis. So if you lose that power, then that's a good way to get risked. They risk you into doing other things because you know you're not the cool person anymore.
Right. Yeah, and there's peer pressure as well as a big part of why teens engage in risky behavior because they're easily influenced by those people that they feel are in power over them, and they want to really fit in. Thanks so much, Antonio, for sharing. Anyone else before we move on? This is great. I wish we could just continue just having this conversation. It's pretty cool. I'm learning some new things myself from all of you. I thank you for your input. So let's move on. So here are some signs that teens might be using drugs. We all know pretty much the teens in our life. I mean, be it your kids or maybe your nephews, nieces, cousins. So if you notice that they're not acting themselves, they're very out of character, that's a big telltale sign. Maybe they were very communicative before they started using, and then they all of a sudden shut down. They don't look you in the eye anymore. They don't shower as much, poor hygiene. They're really secretive about where they're going. Maybe they're tired all the time, sleeping a lot. And they're not interested in the activities that they used to do. And another big indicator is that their friend group may have changed. Maybe they're hanging out with different people. So it's important for us who are around youth or have youth in our life that we always have open communication with them, that we're having conversations with them so that they know that we're here for them and that they can come to us if they have issues or problems, or even if you notice that, I wonder if they're using some kind of substance. You could even have that conversation with them if you have a close enough relationship with them to let them know that they have someone who is on their side. So these are just some telltale signs, some of many that you can look for. But the bottom line is, the teen in your life. So anything is that is way out of character for them could be a red flag. So you might want to check in and make sure that everything's okay, that they're doing all right. If they need any assistance, do they need links to services? Do they need someone to talk to? All of that. You want to make sure that you provide them with information. And if you don't know that information, AADAP is a great place to go. You can call us at AADAP. We can link you to services. So statistically, there are 1 in 5 teens has abused prescription drugs, according to the CDC. 21% of high school seniors report using marijuana in the past month. And this one I found really interesting, that 1 in 3 parents believe there is little they can do to prevent drug use. So that's a little sad statistic to me, that 1 in 3 parents think there's nothing I can do or say to stop them from using, so why should I even say anything? That's a really sad fact to me, because it's our job, or I'm a parent as well. It's our job as parents to be role models for our kids, to be able to show them how to live life, what instill in them values, and also educate them about substances and drugs and what they can do. So I hope, that one statistic really made me sad. Do I have anybody have any thoughts about any of these statistics that I'm sharing here? And then Marlon, you can help me if anyone puts anything in the chat.
It seems like maybe they seem like they can't prevent it because the children spend so much time away. I think as parents, we know we can be role models, and we know we can give them the education, but when the kids are at school, passing around marijuana vapes, I think maybe that's where that idea of there's little I can do to stop that from happening.
That's
but
true.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. Like we can, definitely try to mold and put the ideas in their head, though.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your insight. Anyone else?
This is Jen. I would definitely say times have changed because even when I was growing up, just drug culture was just different than how it is now. And also, too, we didn't have accessibility to social media and things
Yeah.
like that, right? And so for parents, for parents not having grown up with social media, not having grown up with cell phones, right? Like, all the access points are just there, right? And being able to control, how do you control it? How do you best monitor it? I think it can be easy to feel ill-equipped with when there's so much going on nowadays versus, when we were growing up. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jen, for that insight. You're right. There is so much accessibility now with the social media, with the access to Snapchat. The dealers know how to get into the kids' heads and entice them, to encourage them, and to say, hey, come try this. That's another way that kids are accessing substances. So it's important as parents and as people who are around young people to know what social media platforms they're on and be checking their accounts and talk to them about the dangers, about people being predatory on those different sites. So it's really important to raise that bar with your kids and make sure that kids are aware that this is a potential danger as well. Anyone else have any other thoughts? If not, we can go ahead and move on. Thank you. So here's a question for you that I would like you to finish. Prevention is important because. Why is prevention important? Anyone?
You need that, right?
I can't. Is someone talking?
Yes.
Yeah, it was me, Marlon, saying that prevention is important because the youth's brain is still developing. We need the brain at our best capacity for the rest of our life. We don't get that time back. So
Right. Yep. You can't get it back once it's damaged. Can't really get it back.
and Chanti in the chat says saves lives.
Yeah, prevention can save lives.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Or put youth are the future.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yeah, prevention it's so important because it's important to educate and to inform our youth about substance use, abuse. You don't want to scare them. Just like, you go to the doctor because maybe just for maintenance, you do your yearly annual checkups. That's preventative. You exercise because you want to have a good heart. You want to make sure that you're healthy. So that's a form of prevention as well. Marlon, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so a couple more comments and then I think someone at TC might want to share. So
Okay.
also to raise awareness, prevention provides great community education. It's the first step. When we start with prevention, people have a greater success of living drug-free lives. So that was what's mentioned in the chat.
Thank you.
If TC wants to share, feel free.
Hi.
I believe it's important to send the right message, also depending upon where the source is coming from, and also because it's the moral right thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it is so important to send the right message and to make sure that people are doing all that they can to make sure that they're informed about anything, informed about what they're putting into their body, what it's doing to their body, what it's doing to their brains, what it can be doing to their hearts, all of that. And yeah, that's why I really enjoy doing what I do, and especially working with the youth and the high schoolers that I work with, being able to educate them and being able to get them to really understand and then become advocates for their peers is so important, because it keeps, the message keeps going from there. You teach somebody, have you ever heard the term each one teach one? So you teach somebody, they teach somebody else, and the message keeps going.
Yeah,
So it's
someone
really,
else from TC.
yep, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Miss Tracy, I just want to say prevention, because you don't need to pick up. That's what I think about that. Once you pick up, that could be life-threatening right there. Just picking up, just the thought. Sometimes
Mhm.
we manifest on the thought, and we don't let it go, because that's all it is. It starts as a thought. But if you initiate it, if you execute the thought, whether it's good or bad, you got to understand, weigh the tables to see if it's good for you. If it's not good for you, then you don't need to invest your time in it. So I would say time management, on how you manage your time, your 24 hours in the day. I think that's a good coping skill within itself, knowing how to manage your time. Is this beneficial for me? Is this
Mhm.
what I need to be doing? Or is that person someone I need to be hanging around? People, places, and things. That's what I'm trying to get my point across to.
Yeah,
Smart in what you do with your time, with your day. Thank you.
yeah. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, let's move on. Oh, wow. Our presentation is so fast. Anyone have any questions or comments that they want to bring up at this point? Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions or you want to add a comment.
How do we unmute it?
Yeah, you got it?
I just want to say, may the Lord bless our posterity.
Thank you. Thank you. I like that positive message. Any questions at this point?
I would also just point out that schizophrenia and other mental disorders can often be induced by marijuana usage. And so, another important factor of not using drugs in their adolescence, and what I taught my children, showed them multiple videos of people on Skid Row, or just took them to Skid Row in general. But, if you're genetically predisposed to have those mental disorders, and maybe you didn't have them because, and I don't want to get too sciencey, but if you're smoking so much, and you cause those, you induce those mental disorders, that can become an issue and make it even harder for you to get off the drugs. And so I noticed that with even some of my family members, that our family might be predisposed to some mental disorders, and using those drugs caused a lot of issues with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. So those are some of the things I would tell children to look out for.
Yeah, and it's so important to know your family history as well. If your family has an issue or of alcoholism in the family, that could be passed on. That could become an issue for someone. If they have someone who is an alcoholic and they become of age to drink, you want to be more careful. Those kids you want to make sure that they're even more careful and mindful of what they're putting into their body, because of that. Issues can be exasperated. I think that's the right way. can be heightened because of disposition. Thank you for that. Any other last thoughts before we move on? No. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on for a moment. We do have an evaluation, and we hope that you will fill it out, because the survey helps us to know what topics that you would like to see, how helpful this particular Hot Topic Tuesday was. And in the TC, I know there's a lot of you in the room right now. So what we can do, if you need me to, message me and I can send the link out. And then if you can share the link to everyone who's on the call in the room there, we would love to have their input, everyone's input on this Hot Topic Tuesday. It would really help us immensely. So you guys know how to find me. I'm AADAP T Sadawatari at aadapinc.org. My contact information will be on a slide coming up. So while you're filling that out, we're going to just continue. Our next Hot Topic Tuesday workshop will be Tuesday, March 22nd, same time, 4 to 5 p.m. The focus will be on National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. Marlon, who is my tech support today, and his intern Paris will be leading that Hot Topic Tuesday focused on National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week, focusing on the different facts about the different substances in kind of a Q&A format. And I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully you can join us back. And I want to thank everyone for coming. Don't forget to fill out that evaluation. Really appreciate you. As I said, here is contact information for all of us in the community prevention team. My contact information is at the top of the page there. We have other organizers in other cities, in Carson, Inglewood, another organizer in Gardena as well. You can find us on Facebook. Those are all of our Facebook channels. And then also on Instagram. We have a number of Instagram channels as well. So feel free to like, follow, share what we post out there. And I want to thank you all for coming to our Hot Topic Tuesday. Have a great afternoon, and we will see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.